The purpose of Wealth Talk is to educate, inform, and hopefully entertain you on the subject of building your wealth. WealthBuilders recommends you should always take independent financial, tax, or legal advice before making any decisions around your finances.
Today's episode is brought to you by WealthBuilders Membership, a proven step-by-step process that helps you achieve financial security within 2 to 3 years. To find out more, head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership. Welcome to episode 250 of Wealth Talk. My name is Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for WealthBuilders, and I'm joined today by my co-host and founder of WealthBuilders, Mr. Kevin Whelan. Hiya, Kevin.
Hello, Chris. Good to be with you again. And for such a prestigious occasion, it's nice to see you've dressed up for it.
Yeah, you know me. Always love a collar and a, and a shirt tie. So, we are here. And boy, have things progressed since we launched back in February 2019. Can you remember back that far?
I was in my 50s then, mate.
Yes, I was in my 30s. Yeah, things have changed. Life has changed.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it, what's happened since 2019? And I'm actually pleased and proud of our own resilience and our own commitment to keep doing this. And there are obviously good reasons for that. But even if we just casually reflect on what's happened, we keep talking about the economic wind that blows on us. But look at some of the years we had, right? So obviously, you know, we've worked together. I think we met, was it 2014?
That's correct, yes.
Not that I remember it. We didn't go on a date or anything, and we certainly haven't picked out any curtains.
A glass of wine, though, I believe.
But we recognised that we had skills together. We recognised that I had a vision, and you had great tempo energy. I was great at the ideas, but not so good at the delivery, and you've done a great job. So I want to commend you for that. But the other point is, wow, what things have changed externally, right? So it's not just we've got older, but the world has turned. And in so many ways, look at what happened it's only 3 years ago since COVID. We're saying to people now, with all the developments and improvements we've made in the Wealth Builder program, for many people, they can become financially independent in 3 years. So look back to COVID and go, actually, if I look forward, I could be completely financially secure, probably not independent. We had a crazy year in 23. You know, we had 4 chancellors, 3 prime ministers and 2 monarchs in a single year. Of course, we've got an election coming up, and that's going to be a bun fight. We had all sorts of weird and wonderful things going on, and the world constantly changes. And that's why at Wealth Builders, we encourage people to deal in principles, because principles will work irrespective of the economic circumstances. But by being involved in a community, we can then respond to those changes when we see them. So principles plus proactivity when you see something happening, being financially fleet of foot, so to speak, you know, being able to move when you see things, because being outstanding in a niche, which is a bit of language, and there's probably lots of things we've shared over the years, Chris, where maybe some of that language is already in other people's psyche. For those who've listened to us for a year, you know, the pillars, the wheel of wealth. But I'm pleased that we've carried on. The resilience is carried on, and we want to keep going. But in order to just stop, pause, acknowledge, and celebrate it, really. So, and we'll celebrate that with some thoughts about how we can reward those people who have listened to us, and encourage a few shares at the same time, Chris. How about that?
Absolutely. Yes. No, we want to say a very, very big thank you to you for tuning in, to listening, to following, subscribing, to leaving us wonderful reviews. And, over 250 reviews now, 5-star reviews, Kevin. We read those out every week, on our way now to 500,000 downloads of the podcast. And interesting, we started off recording around a table. We had a sort of Tascam recorder back in 2019. Then COVID came. We had to move online, and we used some software called Zencaster. I know people are interested to find out a bit of behind the scenes, how it all comes together. And then we shifted to Zoom. Now we use a platform called Riverside. And the most popular listening time I can see from the stats, Kevin, is first thing on a Wednesday morning as soon as the podcast is released. So between 8 and 9 a.m. is when we get most of our listeners each week.
Oh, that's really interesting. It's almost like people tune in and know it's coming. That will be a wonderful feeling, to think that people look forward to our musings, Chris. And we get feedback on the style of it, the kind of combination of the warmth, obviously, that exists between you and I, the lessons and inspiration that comes from our guests and sometimes ourselves, and letting people know really that we are a genuine organization, with integrity at the very essence of who we are. And that's starting to do great things for us in terms of our memberships and so on. And those programs have improved as well over the years. So, yeah, when you look back, it's been amazing, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's been 3 iterations of membership since we launched in 2019, and our founder members that joined us then, many of them still with us today, which is fantastic. We then launched the Academy in 2021, and WealthBuilders membership now is bigger and more vibrant than it's ever been. And that leads me on to say we have got some wonderful gifts which we want to share. And today we're going to be showcasing some of the highlights from our members, because without you listening, without our members there taking those steps every month consistently, we wouldn't have a reason for showing up, Kevin. So that's the reason why we do what we do. But perhaps you've been listening to the podcast for a long time now, and for whatever reason, maybe the timing hasn't been right. But we want to make this a no-brainer offer today, don't we, Kevin? And we're going to be giving away.
Yeah, let's just do some giveaways, Chris. I think it's appropriate. I'm pleased and proud of what we've done, as I've already said. And I know people still sit on the fence, right? We know that many members who join us, we had a membership call with a member just yesterday, and it's like, it's almost like I'm getting my private podcast with you and me both trying to help this guy with a business dilemma. Just some really, really interesting things that, our members are now doing for themselves, some fantastic stories. So if you picked a few highlights for people to dive into and go, well, look, in 3 years, this could be you. It's not a lifetime away. It's not like thinking about putting more money into your pension and hoping for the best that one day, someday, things will work out. It's not about accumulating money. It's about cash flow first, accumulation second. Say it again, Chris. Cash flow is how you start to build your wealth. And then you have capital events that you add to those as you start to move forward. That way you get your time back. And that's the most precious commodity of all. That if you've got cash flow coming in equivalent to what your day job pays you, essentially, then you don't need the day job. Whether it's a day job in a job, PAYE, or whether it's a day job self-employed, doing work as a sole trader, or doing work in a business. And we often comment, don't we, at how hard the business owners in our community work and how little time they have for themselves and for their families. So really good for us to be able to try and help as many people get their time back.
Yeah, we're going to hear some really, really great clips from across the last 5 years from our members sharing what encouraged them to take that first step and the transformation that they've seen as a result of that. But the freebies, let's share with our listeners, Kevin. We've got 25 signed copies of your latest book, The Wealth Coach, which you co-wrote with Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach. So 25 physical books that we're giving away there. We're going to create 25 free wealth maps. So this is everything on one page, your wealth like you've never seen it before. It's actually part of the membership program, but we're going to give the opportunity for 25 people to get a free wealth map. And then we are giving anyone who has not yet taken that first step with us the opportunity to become a member of WealthBuilders, to get on the inside for just £25 a month. And in order to be in with a chance to win those, all you have to do is share this episode on social media. So whether you choose Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, whatever you prefer, with the hashtag WealthTalk250. So hashtag WealthTalk250, and add a few words. Let us know if you've been enjoying it, what your favorite episode was. We'd love to see that alongside it. But that's all you need to do. Just simply share our posts, which you'll find online. So if you search Wealth Talk 250, you'll see our posts. Just repost that, share it with the hashtag, and then we will be picking those winners.
£25 to give a little taster on the inside, isn't it? It's like a little taster menu. Hopefully you'll never look back and go, well, okay, now I see what it feels like. Because often people second guess themselves, don't they? And they kind of prejudge. And another word for prejudging is prejudice, right? So you prejudge, oh, well, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too this or too that. And nobody is. There is no circumstance in which the processes that we share work. It's entirely predictable if you follow every single month, ideally surround yourself with like-minded people so you get the environment, the cushion, the inspiration. Again, just reflecting on a call I had earlier in the week, Chris, and a woman had said to me, I'm so glad I found you because I'm on my own here, trying to build wealth on our own, and people in the job not thinking you're doing what? There's so many people who'll be naysayers. So don't be dragged down by the naysayers. Don't be dragged down by somebody else who isn't thinking about becoming financially independent. If they're a life partner or a partner, they'll come along for the ride if it's going to work out for them, and leaving a great legacy for your children as well. Well, what's not to like? And I can't think of a better way to introduce that than to do it on episode 250. I mean, 25 quid. Wow, Chris. Did we have a board meeting to agree that or something? Or
yeah, we did. Yeah, must have had one too many glasses of wine. So for this special 250th episode, we're showcasing our members who have taken that first step and keep on taking small steps every month, and who have now achieved financial security and independence for themselves and their families. So we're going to hand it over now, Kevin, and we'll be back next week with episode 251. But now handing over to our members.
Until then, my fellow members, see ya.
And as usual on our Spotlight, what we do is kind of take a walk through our 9-step recurring revenue roadmap, which is the process that we teach our members who join us in the Wealth Builders Academy to move from a place of financial insecurity through to security and then on to independence. And that's a journey we know from start to finish takes approximately 5 years, Kevin. So first 1 or 2 years is always the early stages. It's just testing those ideas, turning a few wheels, as we say in the Wealth Builders world, and just finding the right path. And then year 2, year 3 really is where the momentum builds.
Absolutely right, Chris. And I think as Dan Hill said in the podcast we did previously, success and failure is predictable. And we know that if people follow our roadmap, success is predictable.
The day job has now become surplus to requirements, as you could probably say. I'm not leaving it immediately, but I've set a date to get out of that in October. So I've decided October is my escape the rat race date. I'm going to hand in my notice then and leave the day job.
Going to sack your boss.
Yes, I'm sack my boss here.
So my property mentor, Carol, mentioned SSAS pensions to me. I'd never, ever heard of it. And so that's how I came across Wealth Builders. And I was definitely one of those people. I was always looking for that thing to invest in that would add that layer of security and give that extra income. And I had made so many mistakes. And I think that for me was really frustrating. I was wanting to do the right things. I was wanting to invest. I was wanting to do that. But there's so much false information out there and people with not the right ethics, let's say, that you end up, can make some costly mistakes. And I definitely did that. So finally, I just felt once I looked at, and I'd heard of you from Escape the Rat Race. I worked in London and it was one of those things I'd meant to go along to and never had. So your name was familiar. And then when I looked into Kevin, I just felt that this was finally a place that wasn't just focusing on one source of income. Like for me, yes, I'm interested in lots of I want more than one stream of income. And so many things out there just focus on property or just focused on investments. And this was that really holistic approach that I was looking for, structured with the detail. And I felt with the right people leading it, that it wasn't just going to be another one of those things where you just kept being upsold to something else to learn the next bit of information.
The amount of times I recalculated my numbers, each time I was doing it, I was getting a different number and a different number. And then it came to a certain point that number became a little bit more concrete and where I was more comfortable. So I think huge shout out to Manish, but also a couple members within the Wealth Builders community as well. So I think, again, going back to having the right group around you, I think that gives you that level of comfort and support that you need to get it over the line.
It took me such a long time to get there, but once I took action, it gave me the momentum I needed.
And isn't that such an important lesson? And again, for anyone listening now who is just being held back and just that little bit of fear, just taking that first step, because it's expanding your comfort zone. And the other side of your comfort zone is where all the results are, right? And you just got to step over there. And of course, having support around you is really important. If you're doing this completely on your own, it's scary. And that's why a lot of people never make it, right? But when you've got others, as you said, you can see others that are doing it. They're okay, they're safe, they're generating income. Why are you not doing it yourself? And when you do take that step, then you realize, yes, you wish you'd done that much sooner.
So I did what everyone does and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I was doing some searching on the internet and came across Kevin's book, 7 Pillars of Wealth. That really struck home, actually. That was a really, really great kind of guide and kind of started to give me a bit of a plan of what I could do potentially. And then I created my business from there and started looking at our family's financial situation.
Great. And it's only been a couple of weeks, but how are you finding the program so far?
I'm absolutely loving it. I'm really enjoying it, finding a lot of value from it. Like in the last couple of weeks, done the Wealth Dynamics test and found that really useful. And my wife's done it, and that's really interesting as well. And you can start to see a pathway to achieving financial independence. At the start, it seemed pretty far off. And then when Kevin was talking, and yourself were talking about 5 to 7 years, you think, really? And I've given myself a challenge for 11 years to do it. But like the more I've got into the course, the more you can see that being a realistic goal.
So we know there's many, many strategies out there within each of the pillars. And this is where overwhelm can kick in for people because they just don't know where to begin. So what's been your primary wealth building strategy, Claire? And what other strategies are you also looking at?
So we started off with our in property with our buy-to-lets, sort of that's our little foundation. Then we did learn about sort of buy, refurb, refinance, and now we're really looking to the holiday lets. We've done one. I'm currently in talks with some other members in the Wealth Builders community about doing another joint venture. They also look after holiday lets. That'll be our next deal, I think, which we're really excited about as well.
Can all see the social media posts every day and stories of people, having great successes. We know the reality is that it's not that easy. And the reality is that there are a lot of people, Kevin, on their wealth building journey who get stuck or who never even get started at all. And we're here to do our best every day with our members to encourage them, to support them and create that community of like-minded people so that when you get stuck, you've got others that are giving you that little nudge, maybe your coach on your call each month that's saying, look, you can do it. All right. And also you have to take action. You have to take that first step.
So that was the first start of the reason why, to start to realise, well, if I continue doing on the same path, then I'm not going to be able to survive as I get to a certain age. The second part was when we got into the first lockdown and I started to think, well, I can sit back and do nothing in lockdown, or I can really push on and use this to my advantage. So I took the latter and decided that was the starting point for me to start looking at the reason why do I want to be successful and financially independent. And then I overlaid that with the journey for my family. And I really want to make sure that the kids are also on that path. So it's kind of a mixture of making sure we're okay in later on in life, myself and my wife, but almost more the case of my drive now is to make sure the kids have got a really good starting point and they understand how to wealth build as well.
We had zero income being generated from any of the assets that we owned, despite owning a number of assets and obviously being in a very kind of high earning job. That was a bit of a realization once I started to really kind of understand the concept behind wealth building. So the position back then was, despite my kind of employment, and my other half had a very successful business. She'd been kind of running childcare businesses for the last 20 years and always been very profitable. But we were still at a point of financial insecurity because we didn't have any generating income and we had some pretty lofty outgoings with kids at private school and expensive lifestyles, etc. But because of the wealth building steps that we've taken over the last 12 months, we're very much on our way to security and beyond towards independence.
So I found out that I was a creator or creative, I can't remember what the wording is, and it fits very much because I tend to have a lot of ideas and I like to start things. So I've had different businesses along the way. I've sort of done tapas classes, I've done dating things for people, but I tend to get bored quite quickly. And so I think it was really good to learn about myself and to see what I would need to keep things sustained in order sort of to grow businesses rather than just start them. David, on the other hand, was a lord, which fit very much. And it sort of made a lot of sense why in business we don't really understand each other, because he needs to know everything. He needs to have planned out every single step to sort of the nth degree before he's ready to go. Whereas I've lost interest by that point. So it was really nice to sort of see those two profiles and to understand each other a bit more and see how we could help each other. And also when we needed to sort of say, okay, we need to back off and let the other person do their thing. And that led us actually to decide that we should do different businesses and help each other rather than sort of clashing heads and trying to work together, which was...
When you become a business owner, your IP becomes yours. So you've got IP times L. Leverage. What's the way you can leverage your IP? Now, of course, it's possible to be an intrapreneur and go to your boss in a company and say, hey, I've got this brilliant idea. Can I get a share of the value that's created? But most people don't do that. It's only when you're forced through a transition when you have to look at that and say, well, now I've got this intellectual property. I used to give it away. What can I now do with that adds value to either a pillar, which could be business, it could be the way you do property, it could be the way you create joint ventures, it could be anything really. But as long as you apply your brain power and say, well, what do I do that's uniquely me? Which means a bit of self-analysis, a bit of introspection. Now, of course, in WealthBuilders Academy, we ask people to do their wealth dynamic, which is all about what keeps them in flow. But I'd also suggest you take time to look at, well, what's your DNA? Who are you? What are your values? What are the things you care about?
I was reading quite a lot of books and I heard Kevin at a Mark Stokes event and I thought he was quite an interesting individual. And I went back and he pinged me a free book, which I downloaded and I read. At the back of that, I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad as well, another sort of seminal book. And the light started to ping on in my brain, really, thinking, okay, that's what I need to do. So I had a sort of an inkling of what I needed to do. It's just a question of finding out how to do it.
Yeah, good. And then I guess obviously you caught wind of the fact we were launching, the WealthBuilders membership program, and I guess the timing and the interest was there.
It was. I think the interesting thing that struck me, the membership program, it's like all these things. I think you mentioned before, there's a lot of people that bombard you with educational process, especially now. And I think you have to be very careful of how you analyse them. And it's very easy to tick in the box and go, okay, it's another subscription model. And they end up sort of having different value systems, really. So with this, the one thing that struck me with Kevin is the 5% of the population. That's all that's sort of engaged with creating, say, SSAS pension funds and actually looking after their own finances. It's really poor, but I thought that was a really interesting point. And then obviously with the roadmap, I thought it was a really good way, breaking it down to go, okay, it's a great analysis tool, and then you can see where you're going to go. So why not? So I ticked the box, paid the money, and thought, well, it's not much to lose. Let's see how it goes. Yeah. And been there ever since.
So let's just go through each of those 7 pillars, Andy, and let's see kind of what have you currently got now. So the first pillar is home capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again, this was down to conversations with Ian Halfpenny and the advice, as my coach, as my WealthBuilders coach, has been exceptional. So we actually used some of the equity in the house and bought a property as a result of that. We're looking at the second as well. So, and that's been great. That was the learning that we picked up from that as well. And, having him there as that point of reference and, being able to use his guidance and expertise was absolutely invaluable. So yeah, home capacity was certainly one that we've used so far.
So from a monthly income point of view, I think it was a £1,200 a month boost on the thermometer, which is fantastic. Now, on the grand scale of my aspirations, it's the £1,200 a month wasn't a huge chunk for me personally. However, the really nice thing about it, and I think I mentioned this in the call last night, is I actually used the money for something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So it made a difference to my life. The £1,200 a month asset income. I wanted a new car. I drive a 20-year-old vehicle, have done for the last 20 years, believe it or not. And it meant that I could actually take those teachings of using a income producing asset to pay for a luxury. And that's exactly what I did.
I always wanted to create something of my own, but I just wasn't sure on what it is. And all it took was you asking me one question, which was, what does everyone say to you? What's the one thing people come to you on? And it was then suddenly really, really obvious and clear. And I didn't know why I hadn't thought of it before, but everything happens for a reason. Obviously, the time was right then for me to really think about building my IP, which is around that productivity side of things and managing lots of roles and commitments and hats and whatever you want to call it. That's in progress still. It has been a longer journey than I expected, as most things are. But as I say, I'm now on a strong trajectory to launch in September. So that's very exciting.
Yeah. Most businesses, and I remember doing a presentation on this, Chris, at the BizX forum, speaking to 2,000 business owners, and less than 1%, Chris, we talk about 5% of people become financially independent, 95% don't. 99% of businesses do not sell for more than $1 million. In other words, if £1 million is a benchmark for a reasonable business and you put $1 million in the bank when you sell it, most businesses don't sell at all. And those who do sell don't sell for anywhere near that. So consequently, wealth has got to be built for the most part outside of the business first, inside of the business second.
And I have now since moved across my pensions and my corporate pensions into a SSAS, and that's allowed me to really progress in the property pillar. And we've gone past our financial security figure and pretty close to our financial independence, which is a real game changer. I've got 2 young children. It's allowed me to spend so much more time with them. Not having a boss is fantastic. And choosing how you want to live your life and on what terms is incredible. And knowing that you're doing that with the support of the team at WealthBuilders and the community around you as well has been outstanding. And I'd have done this for 10 times the price, to be quite honest. What I love about this team is that they're not constantly peddling the next course or any courses. In fact, they're just here to try and get the message out, which is, has a real convergence for me around the ethics that I hold true and values.
Yeah, I've kept going with that wheel turn, actually, Chris, just rinse and repeat model. It worked the first time. It was quite stressful, but the more often you turn that wheel, you're more familiar you become with the process. So since I've started, I've turned that wheel 7 times now. There's a big difference between the first time and the 7th time. Just really feel like you know what you're doing now. And comparing to that very first investment, I wouldn't say I could do it with my eyes closed, but it's certainly a lot easier now. So that model, it works. There's no reason to not continue repeating and keep turning those wheels and keep generating that recurring income.
Great. So that's now pushed you significantly closer to your security figure, I imagine.
It has, yeah. So it's well within reach now. It's the aim for 2022 is to surpass that level. Just keep doing what I'm doing. I know I'm going to get there. So really quite amazing.
And now I've got 5 investments with other projects out there. I've got 2 businesses that have bought and sold property or are buying and developing property. I've got some other ideas with regard to kind of more locally starting to generate a recurring income from the money that I've got in my house. Then it's just chalk and cheese in terms of how I've got there. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without Kevin's involvement, because I know I would have gone down rabbit holes and I'd have wasted money and time, and that would have taken a lot longer to kind of get going.
So step 8 is results. So let's look at what that actually means in terms of your wealth levels now. So you said at joining we're in security with 0 recurring income. What does that look like now for you, Paul?
£2,500 recurring every month, and then also the profit that I'm making from the development company as well. So the first deal we did there was earlier this year, and we bought and sold and flipped effectively in 9 weeks, and that was £35,000 lump sum effectively that I made out of that transaction. So that was great. And then the project they're working on at the moment, which is a 2-bedroom bungalow to a 5-bedroom house, that won't mature until kind of spring next year, but that will be in the region of £100,000 return for me. So that's those kind of numbers, and that return is something I could have only dreamed about 18 months ago.
when you finish the podcast, do me a favor. Go get your pension statement. Have a little look. The same with the mortgage statement. What I love are the two things I love about statements. The realization about what they're telling you comes right at the end when you get too bored to get that far, because both of them are shocking messages. On the mortgage statement, it says, your interest rate is this and the property name is that and blah, blah, blah. And the monthly cost is this. And then right at the end, it says, and this mortgage will cost you a total of X. So you borrow 200,000 and it'll say the total cost of this mortgage is 632,433. And you go, what? Because if you knew you were going to spend that much, you might pay attention to reducing that, which is really the subject of my first book, Save a Fortune. So every now and again, probably every 5 years, Chris, I get on a very, very large soapbox and shout and scream about it. So that's the debt one. The pension one, I'm going to shout and scream again, is have a look at something called the SMPI, Chris. There's a new one. It's not a sexy one. Statutory Money Purchase Illustration. It's like a little summary at the end, and it says, based on what we think this will return as an average, based on inflation, which will be significantly understating inflation, by the way, we think your pension will be worth this in real terms. And that is what shocked the hell out of James. When you realize your pension is not going to make you wealthy. There's no pension can make you wealthy unless you've got a fantastic final salary pension and you earned a fortune. And for most people, those are long, long, long gone. So the only thing you can do with pensions, and I implore you, please, if you're listening, get your statement now. Have a look, because most people are going to get a terrible, terrible return.
I've got my kind of ongoing kind of wealth building coach with Carol Robinson, who's been fantastic in terms of keeping me on the straight and narrow, being a fantastic support in terms of giving me the reassurance that I'm actually doing the right things, and just kind of guiding me and prodding me now and again to say, why don't you try this and try that, just to further enhance, free more time up for yourself. So that's been great. And I can't not mention Brian Harvey. Brian Harvey on the SSAS side, I was part of the SSAS program as well. So he kicked the whole process off, helped me get the approval going. And then up until very recently, he's still been there, kind of giving me the fruits of his knowledge and the guidance that's been equally as valuable as the time I've spent with Carol this last 12 months. So both fantastic coaches.
We were okay. We had the finance there in place, but we didn't have a structure. And I think with WealthBuilders, it gives you that structure really to follow the 9 steps that we needed to do. Everything's there. We've got the peer in the group as well, which can help us whenever you want anything. You can ask the question.
I think everybody worries about future planning and kind of thinking, they don't want to, think about what far ahead. It's daunting, it's scary, but this gives you an opportunity to kind of do it, and it's simplified.
Yeah, it's step by step.
It's step by step. It's simplified. They hold your hand along the whole process, and before you know, your future plan is kind of done, and and it wasn't as difficult or as daunting as you thought it would be.
Yeah.
And also, there's the legacy that you leave back for your children. That was really important to us, because also no one wants to think about when they're not going to be here anymore, but it just made it so much simpler for.
Yeah, definitely don't hold back. I think if you can do it, I'd jump on the course and jump on the academy really, because the support's amazing. Whenever we need anything, really good. Colby's our coach at the moment. He's been amazing. He's always coming up with good ideas. We're looking at a project together now at the moment, and he's just I've just looked at it as a normal flip sort of project, but he's come back with all sorts of ideas and stuff, and then he just starts saying, "Oh, that's a good idea, Colby." Yeah, so that was really good. I jumped on Manish's course as well. I did that for just to sort out stocks and shares out, and that was a really good course. Jumped on that with him as well. So that was something just technical. Yeah, you can ask anything, and the webinars are really important to me as well. Like there was a webinar yesterday that I unfortunately missed, but that was about the wealth dynamics as well. But you can get them all recorded. You can jump on when you get time. So they're really, really useful. John Dale, who does the property, is an expert in that, and you can jump on a call with him as well. So there's plenty of stuff to do and plenty of help available.
We just love working with, as we call them, partners, people who provide an outstanding level of service, who are experts in their niche. And niche is really important. But people who are outstanding in their niche and who deliver a first-rate service. And that's really what we want. And because we've got all those in play, then that saves an awful lot of time, because what you can't do with wealth, you can't Google your way to wealth. There's no manual for it. There's a roadmap, but somebody's got to be acting as a guide. And I think what he got surprised at, which is where the skeptic, not cynic, came in, is the fact that the community is there. The community are not for themselves. The community are for sharing. I think, Chris, it's a long time ago since I mentioned that wealth building and transitioning from insecurity to security and security to independence is like crossing over a bridge. And you remember that analogy, and we use it a lot, don't we? That when you cross the bridge, you know people have crossed it, and they're there extending their hand behind you to offer you help. Like we want you to do is when you move forward, you extend your hand behind you to help somebody else. And that's what happens, and it genuinely happens. And it isn't people saying, I'll help you, but you got to pay me this or do that. It's they help you because they're in a community. And there's no stronger reason to engage, certainly with WealthBuilders, than the power of our community.
You're still at beta stage, really, just launched with the business, but you've now got paying clients and recurring income coming in, Steve.
That's right. We're, like you say, it's still early days, but I do have 5 clients, and that's putting money onto the thermometer, and that's recurring every month. So it's sort of a proof of concept that this works, and I just need to ramp it up now. Happy with the business model, happy with the product. The customers are happy. Now it's just a matter of helping more people raise their profile online by using this system.
Yeah. And how confident do you feel, Steve, that obviously now you're on the right track, that you will hit your security level in the coming months or year?
Yeah, all the pieces are there. So, the fact that I've got 5 paying customers who are all happy is the proof of concept. It's working for them. There's no reason why that can't be 500 customers with the way that I've built it. It's a platform rather than a service that needs people to spend lots and lots of time on. So it's something that, we can get going really quickly for people. And once they're up and running, it all looks after itself. So
yeah, so excited to see that building.
One of the things that was holding me back was fear of getting it wrong. And just as a background, we had quite a sort of a poor background to begin with. I'm in a place now where I would never have predicted, in my 20s where I'd be now. So you built this lifestyle, or I built this lifestyle, and the last thing you want it to do is come crashing down. So for me, it was definitely the fear of getting it wrong. That was one thing. Secondly, I think in terms of my understanding, I felt I needed to understand everything before doing anything. And really, I'm somebody that learns by doing. And I know that. So I should have realised that early on.
Just being able to connect with other trustees and administrators through that process has been really, really great. The other thing I've really enjoyed about the connections is that everybody's in that kind of same boat. Everybody's trying to do similar things. There's always going to be somebody a little bit further ahead than somebody else, but the learnings and knowledge that we've had as a result of those connections, GP is a great example. He's always kind of spurring me along and telling me to keep going and giving me that support that I've needed really as I've got going over the last 12 months. So fantastic.
That's really good.
3 years from now is like looking back 3 years. Wow. You could be financially independent within 3 years, or financially secure, at least anyway, most people. In other words, all your bills paid for from the proceeds of recurring income that you've generated from assets. And a short time after that, hopefully, to be independent for the rest of your life. And that's an interesting challenge for people who think, I don't think I could do that. Well, can you just do one thing next month and reach out? And then can you do what we ask you to do the following month and just do it? And just tick the box, then most people can achieve it, and yet so few actually do. Statistically, it's still 95% of the population don't make it, and we're helping people hundreds at a time, but statistically, we're not going to do anything for the whole of the economy, and we'd just love that to accelerate if we can.
So if you'd like to have a chat, get in touch, head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/discovery call. You can book a call in with our team, and we'd be more than happy to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve and see if we can help you get there a little bit quicker. What do you see as being key in helping you continue to stay focused and to take the necessary steps to reach your own financial goals, Danny?
I think it's just staying focused on the end goal, and I think, as I said at the beginning, enjoying the process. I feel the level of desperation has gone, and I feel everyone that you get overexcited at first when you start something new, don't you? And you have these huge visions of things happening much quicker than they're actually going to happen. And, you can decide to hate your day job and resent it. And actually, you've got to enjoy the journey. It's going to take a while. You've got to trust the process. I completely trust that I will be able to achieve what I want to achieve.
Obviously, there's a little way to go. This is not an overnight process. This is a journey that for most people to move from insecurity to financial independence, will take anywhere between sort of 3 to 7 years. So in terms of getting you further forwards, Ivor, what do you see as being really important? What do you see as, the aspects that will help you to keep accelerating and building upon everything you've done already?
The key there, I think what we've got within the group is the community. I think that the community is really powerful to be able to see the results of other people. Everyone's on a different stage of wealth building. And what I love about the program is, it doesn't matter what stage you're at, everyone's there to help you out. And I think the more you use the community, the more you're going to get out of the program and accelerate your wealth building journey as well.
So by repeating the process of choosing your pillar, then your strategy, and working out what your points of leverage are, then you will move towards a place of financial independence. And for most people, that journey from insecurity to financial independence takes about 5 years, as we mentioned. So what do you see as being key to helping you continue to stay focused and take the necessary steps to reach that financial goal?
Yeah, I think a key will be make sure we still do our monthly wealth coaching calls. So I think the coaching calls are so important just to keep us focused still and hold us accountable, keep us on track. And also recently we had one with Chris and he's like, I think you should do a 90-day plan for a project we're going to be working on. I was like, that's a great idea. So I think, again, having a big visual 90-day plan to get us to the next stage of what we're trying to work on.
I think we'd have always got where I was going to get to on the property side, potentially, without WealthBuilders. But I'd say I wouldn't be where I am today, and I'd still probably be working towards my security level 3 years later. I'd have taken my eye off the ball, done something else, then come back to it, and then that worked really well. So I'd have gone off and done something else for some strange reason, and then come back to it. So I just think the clear focus and being able to rinse and repeat everything just means you stay on track and you get to where you want to be a lot quicker. And I think we say 5 years within WealthBuilders to achieve your goal. I think if you stick to the plan and you do everything you're supposed to going to do, it's more than achievable. And I think with a little bit more focus, you can probably do it in less than 5 years. But not everyone's got the luxury of time. Again, leverage. If you can leverage your time and go through all the steps, you can just get to where you need to be a hell of a lot quicker and enjoy life then, instead of working.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the WealthBuilders membership site to help you create, build and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.